Hi, I'm Angela Brooks-Osborne. I'm here with OTBspotlight.tv. And we're here with Randi-Lee Bowslaugh, and we're here with her new book, Thoughts of a Wanderer. It's actually been released in October, right? We released it in October at a special event in Toronto. You could have, if you were there, you could have gotten a copy hot off the press. Today we are here to I want you guys to have a sneak peek behind the scenes of who Randi-Lee is and why she shared her story, and also we're doing a pre-launch for the ebook. So if you are a Kindle reader, an ebook reader, this is definitely a great time to buy her book. But in the meantime, let me introduce you to the book and to Randi-Lee. Randi-Lee, tell us a little bit about yourself, just a tiny little bit to get us started.
So a tiny little bit would be that I have 2 kids, and I have 2 businesses. I like the number 2, apparently. And I'm on my 2nd book. And I'm pretty open, so if anybody watches the video and they have any other questions, they can always put them in the comments and I'll answer, because I'm open. I'm good.
Awesome. And so what inspired you to share your story? I guess let me go back a little bit for a second and just tell us a little bit about the book. What is the book? What's it about?
So the book itself is about mental health, depression specifically, and it really is just about changing the way we think about it and changing the way that some people look at me, because I have 2 kids and I have 2 businesses, and I got really good grades in college, and they're like, oh no, that person could never be depressed. No, she's so happy all the time. That's not true. So the book is really about just getting it out there, making sure people know that anybody could be suffering and you're not going to know.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. We were just talking a few minutes before the interview about how, you could go your whole life not feeling depressed and, not having those moments. And then all of a sudden it can sneak up on you. And it's a very alien place to be. You don't even realize it's happening to you when it's happening sometimes. And maybe it's, from my perspective anyways, Kate Spade, for example, that just had, all the media about Kate Spade and, all the questions that people always said, well, I don't understand. She had it all, even her friends and family, not really understanding, why she couldn't reach out and talk to people. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so glad that you're on the show today, because I know a lot of my viewers, a lot of my readers, you think that you know them, you think that you see them online, or even myself, you see me out there doing what I do, and the perception would be that, when would she ever be depressed? How could, she's got it all, or she seems to have it together, that kind of stuff. And so I'm hoping that there's somebody sitting here watching the video and realizing they're not alone, that sometimes our brand or our perception of what we want other people to think about us can sometimes get in the way of us asking for help or looking for ways to feel connected with other people, right? Because the connection is a big thing, is that you feel like you're in a little silo all by yourself, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And sometimes when people find out about it, they don't know how to treat you. So sometimes you might lose some connections, but you know what, then you're going to gain better ones when people realize it and they support you. And those are the people you want around you.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so tell us more. So what do people expect if they were to pick up a copy of your book?
So the book is broken down into parts. So the first part is a little introduction into my life. It's not super in-depth because that's not the point of the book, but it gives kind of some background. That way people can understand where I'm coming from. The next part is some insights, because if you've lived with it for your whole life, sometimes you've learned either coping strategies or you've learned to recognize, okay, this is going to set me off. I need to back up. I need to take a break. So there's that. And then the big chunk of the book, which is my favorite part of it, is the poetry in there. So I've loved writing, and high school was not a good time. Sometimes people really love their high school experiences, and I'm glad for you. Not so much for me. So during high school, I used to write tons and tons of poems. So I was cleaning the basement one day, and I found them all. And I went, well, I don't want to throw them out, but what am I going to do with them? They're just sitting in the basement. So that's when I started going, I'll put them to a book. So I started doing that. So the big chunk is poetry. There's a few other pieces in there as kind of a interesting thing. I don't want to give it away, but there's some different things that aren't poetry that maybe you're not a writer, but you might like doing something else. And then the end part is all about the things that I'm glad why I never chose to run away or death by suicide or things like that, because, you know, I've got 2 kids. I've got a really nice husband. I've got 2 great businesses. So things that I can be happy for. But then it also talks about the little things, right? Because it's not just about having a family or a house or whatever, because maybe you haven't found the right person. Maybe you haven't finished school, so you don't have the job yet. But what about having my favorite ice cream? I didn't discover that until I was in my 20s. So, you know, if at 15 I would have done something in my 20s, I would have never discovered my favorite ice cream. So appreciate the little things in life too.
Exactly. I love how you approach the book. And when you first submitted it to my publishing, I resonated with it completely. I resonated in the fact that, you know, like you said, there's the hidden people. I call it the hidden people, the people who suffer, but they don't share with everybody. You know, they might not, you know, I hope that they find one person to share with, because I think that that's really important, is finding that one person. But sometimes it's a matter of, you know, even one person's not enough. You know, reach out to a couple more just to find the right person that can support you through the different times, because that one person might not be able to be there all the time when you need them, right?
Exactly.
So when it came to me, you know, I had some family members who fought with depression or fought with mental illnesses, and what I loved about it is that you found an outlet that, other than the permanent solution of suicide, you found an outlet that got you through the moments, you know. And so my hope is that it inspires others to find their thing or their outlet that gets them through the moments, whether it be the poetry, whether it be through art, whether it be through music. And it's funny because I seem to find that usually it's through something creative, isn't it? Usually, it tends to be through something creative. What if somebody's not creative? What if they're not a creative person? What could be some other solutions that they could have?
Exercise is always one of the biggest ones because it naturally releases your endorphins. So those are your good hormones. So if you're feeling low, you need your good hormones to start going. Exercise is the way to naturally kind of do that. Obviously, not everybody likes exercise, but if you don't like the creative side, exercise is a really great way to do it. Even just going for a 10-minute walk around the block, especially, well, not today because it's raining, but on those
Well, that's usually when you feel it, is when the weather isn't cooperating, and you're sometimes my moods match the weather, you know what I mean? Or
and they totally
around me, right? Yeah. So I surround myself, if I have a negative person around me, I'm like a mirror. I'm like a reflection of the environment around me, right?
Yeah.
So,
and that's part of the insight chapter, right? Where you have to recognize that. Now that you can recognize it, that's when you can go, okay, you know what? Maybe I don't need to be around that person or that situation because it's not healthy.
Right.
Sometimes
you can't control that. Sometimes you can't control, but you can control what you do to reflect it, right? Yeah. So for example, I was, opening up to you a little bit. I actually changed my environment for my work. So if many of you are watching this video, you'll see my background's a little bit different. I was in an office, I'd used a small bedroom of our house that turned it into an office. I was there for 4 or 5 years. And just recently I felt some changes, like, and I think I've had a rapid weight loss. So there's been some chemical imbalance, I think. And I think that I decided to change my environment. So here I am out in the open. I have a window here. So changing your environment is a great one. The other thing is I found that I have a convertible. So as soon as I push, I call it my happy button. As soon as I push the happy button and the roof comes down, music comes up, by the time I get to wherever I am going, I feel amazing. And I'm talking, it can be like it's almost like flipping a switch. Like it literally is flipping a switch, and I can feel amazing just by driving wherever I'm going to drive. So if there's something like that in your, I think we need to identify what our happy buttons are, right? So identifying what our happy buttons are, whether it's your favorite ice cream, whether it's working out, whether it's being creative, doing something artistic, creating something, writing, find what those things are. And your book, does talk about this in the insights section. So if you are someone, well, there's two reasons. I would just read the book for reading the book. I think that, I love the journey that you go through, and you can see the journey as you're going through it. I think it's amazing you can identify in different areas, even if it's not you're identifying with, but the people that around you who have mental illnesses, or who maybe you weren't able to identify with. This might help you identify with, where their mindset was, maybe 5 years ago or 10 years ago. The poems themselves, I think, make you really think. And there was a few. Do you have a favorite? Do you want to read a favorite?
I do have a favorite.
I want you to read one of your favorite poems.
Okay, let me find what page it's on, and then I will.
Okay.
There we go. So this is my favorite one.
Which one is it?
It's called Mirror, Mirror.
All right. And which page is that on?
Page 31.
Okay, awesome.
I'll let you find it.
I'm there.
Okay. I look in the mirror, and what do I see? An empty soul staring back at me. My heart is blackening, my love is lacking. Emotion stirred and at bay. I have nothing left to give away.
Oh.
That one is my absolute favorite one, because that's how depression feels to me. It's not that I'm super sad. It's not that I'm angry. I mean, I sometimes will feel those, but it's the lack of feeling anything. When you feel nothing at all. You're not happy, you're not sad, you're not angry, you're just there.
Like void? Like a void?
Yeah, completely void of anything. And that's when the depression gets really bad, because if you can't feel anything, then what's the point of life?
Oh.
So that's my favorite one, because I feel like it's the one that truly reflects how it feels.
Do you think it feels different for different people? Like for,
Oh, I'm sure it does. I'm sure everybody manifests it differently. But I think that lack of feeling from just different people that I've talked to is a key piece for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is that they just feel utter sadness, obviously, or different mental illness can manifest differently, right? So sometimes my daughter has severe anxiety, so sometimes it's that feeling of fear all the time, constantly, right? So different mental health can manifest differently. For me, depression, it manifests in the lack of feeling.
I think that it's really important maybe to identify some of the symptoms. Maybe could we talk about that for a second? Can we talk about, what are some of the symptoms that if you're, because remember I told you I didn't really think that I was going into a depression of any sort. Like all my life, 43 years, I don't really feel, I can never say, hey, that period of my life I was depressed, I can never say that. Okay. But what I did feel was off. Do you know what I mean? Like, so this last, like I said, the last 8 months, 6 months were not, there was been a time where I felt off. I knew I wasn't myself. I knew that I was processing stress differently. I was processing relationships. I was reevaluating relationships and looking at them in lights that I never looked at them before. Because not that relationships didn't matter. Relationships have always mattered to me. I'm a very personable person, and I'm very sentimental, and connection and relationships are important to me. Okay. But for some reason, all of a sudden I've decided, or I had decided to evaluate every single one of them in my life. All of a sudden, is that a symptom? I don't know,
Yeah. And I don't want anybody to get the wrong idea. I'm not a doctor, right? This is just all coming from personal experience.
Of course not.
But it can, especially with, like you were saying, how you felt off.
Yeah.
I think that is the biggest key, is if you feel off. Sometimes you don't even notice it. So when my most recent really low point, I knew I was getting there. I could feel, slowly going down, but I didn't quite realize how much it had went down. And we were sitting at the hospital one day because my daughter was in the hospital that day. And he looks at me and he goes, "Hun, you're broken." What? Like, that's offensive. I'm broken. But he wasn't meaning it in a bad way or anything like that. But the conversation that we were having, it really showed my lack of caring, right? Like I said, it's that lack of nothingness. So my kid is in the hospital and I have this, yep, okay, she's in the hospital. So what? When can I leave? Right? Like, and that's not me, right? And so you have to recognize yourself and notice when you are really having those moments that you're not you. Sometimes that can be hard, but if you have somebody who knows you really well, so for me, my husband, who can look at you and tell you the truth, and that's a hard part too, right? Somebody has to tell you the truth. Don't walk on eggshells, say it right to them. And he said, "You're broken." And I was like, yeah, I am. And so that's when I had to go back to the doctor and get some help to fix that problem. But then, there were a couple months later, well, actually a couple of weeks later, I was at work, and there was another incident with my daughter. If you read my second book, you'll understand. But so I was at work, and I went into one of my coworkers' offices, and I just started crying. And she looked at me, and she's like, "Do you need me to take you somewhere?" Because I've tried to be that strong person all the time and I can handle anything. It's like, no, I can't. I have to stay here. I have to finish doing, I think I was teaching a workshop, right? So I have to finish. As I'm crying, telling her, no, I can't leave. No, I have to go to work. But I can't even do my job because I'm not in a place I can do my job. So I probably should have let her take me to the hospital that day, because my thoughts were, let's drive off a bridge. On my way home from work, I was like, yeah. And I worked in Port Colborne, so there was a few bridges between there and home. So yeah. So my advice to somebody would be, don't do what I did, where I wanted to tough it out. That just made it worse. I would say to somebody, if you need that break, you need to take that break. And whether that's, just one sick day from work, or taking a break, it's a weekend, so you're not working anyways, but taking that break and I'm not answering the phone, I'm not going out, I'm just focusing on me. That's good too. Or if you need to actually take a sick break from work, talk to your doctor. Because if you keep pushing and pushing, there could come a day that you don't push back anymore, and we don't want that.
Yeah. And it's a split decision, right? So some of these permanent solutions, I call them, somebody said it, I think it was Kevin, I'm really bad, Heighton, I can't remember how to pronounce the last, I'm really bad at pronunciations, obviously. And, but anyways, there was a gentleman on my Facebook who said it the best. And he said that, the situation you're in right now and the feeling you're having right at this moment is a temporary feeling. It's a temporary feeling. And sometimes, when people commit suicide, it is a permanent solution to a temporary situation. And that's what you have to keep reminding yourself. You have to say, this is a temporary thing. Tomorrow, you will not feel this way. the likelihood of you feeling this way tomorrow will be very slim. And if you've been feeling this way for a long time, there is an answer. You know what I mean? There is, again, it is still temporary. It's just, you just got to find the solution, the more permanent solution that is not suicide, right? It's kind of it.
And so I encourage anybody to go and talk to their doctor if they have been feeling that way for a long time, because if you've tried, doing something creative, you've tried exercise, you've tried all those other home remedies, anything that you can do for yourself, which they are great. I love doing them. As you'll read in the book, building a blanket fort is a really good thing to do. That came from my friend, which is how I started writing the book, inside of a blanket fort one day. But it can come to a point that you can't handle it on your own anymore. And that doesn't mean you're weak at all. And that's a huge misconception, which is why I wanted to write the book, right? A lot of people go, oh, you have a broken arm. I get it. So actually, I'll give a really real life example, because I'm all about that. And like I said, I'm pretty open. So recently, I just had surgery for cervical cancer, hysterectomy to take that out. And at that time, everybody's, are you okay? What do you need from me? Do you need me to come do this? Do you need me to bring you food? And yes, of course, I needed help, and I'm still in the recovery stages. So yes, I still need help. But when you're feeling depressed or mental health, depending on what kind of mental health you have, right? If it's schizophrenia or anxiety, whatever. But for me, again, depression. When I'm having depression, people don't ask those questions. They're like, get up, get out of bed, go cook your own dinner. Why am I bringing it to you? Well, because I'm not in a place where I even want to eat. What's the point of eating? So I'll just sit in my bed and not. Instead, I'll grab a tub of ice cream and eat that because that's easy. Whereas eating salad, which I love salad, is just as easy, really. But what's the point, right? So people need to realize that mental health affects you just as much as physical health. And I've had it, like I said, I'm going through recovery from surgery, and everybody's there for me. And then when I'm having a bout of depression, not to say nobody's there, because I have some really good friends that have gotten over the years now who really understand it. But the ones that don't, I'm not friends with them anymore, because if you can't understand that some days I'm going to have to cancel, then, you don't get it, and that's fine. But maybe you need to go do some research.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can see it on both sides, right? Like,
Sure.
So as I said, I have family members and stuff. And so sometimes even the person who's trying to be the support or we don't have the answers. We don't have, there's no book that says this is how you react when someone says this, does this, whatever. We also are, and this is the difference between mental and physical. The physical, it's like, there are specific things that we have been raised and we know can be helpful, right? Yeah. So, we could cook a meal. We could, take you for drives to the doctors. There's things that you can specifically do to make life a little bit easier. When it's mental, sometimes, you can offer and the person says no right away. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, for sure. When I'm depressed.
But you don't do anything. You just kind of, so you start, and sometimes, so I look at both sides, and I look at it like, because it is a mental, and there are emotions going on both sides, there's no right or wrong answer there.
There's never,
and sometimes, a cautionary, even for you, like for, our talking, cutting off friends that maybe don't understand doesn't make them a bad person, just makes them maybe not good for you in those moments. That's
okay. Don't get me wrong. It's not to say that they're bad people. It's that
they're just not right.
Life can drift apart, right? So because I'm dealing with something and they're dealing it in a way that they know how, right? But I can't have that right at this moment.
That's right.
They're bad people by any means. I'm not trying to say anybody's a bad person. It's just that being in that depressed state, I can't help them learn because I'm not in that position. Now that I'm feeling better, like a day like today, I'm having a great day, I can help them learn what that means.
Right. That's right.
Right.
And you know that we are surrounded by people who are feeling this way, or people and all the time. So I think that even if you're a person who does not have mental illness, or you feel you're not being affected by it, you actually are, and you don't know it, you know? So being educated about the people, what I call the silent people, you know, that are, you know, suffering silently around us, you know, being educated about it is a really good thing, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Anyways, so I just wanted to clarify that, because I didn't want you to, I didn't want it to sound like you were condemning people who didn't want to learn about it, because I knew that that's not what you meant. I knew that wasn't what you meant, and I know, because like I said, I was one of the, like, so I went through, there's a cycle even for people who are on the outside. So people who are on the outside watching something like this happen, knowing that there's something there but can't do anything about it, because a lot of the times there's blocks, and there's you know, the person who's going through it needs to go through it in their own way. They put up blocks all around, and the person that might be willing to help sometimes is not the right person for them, and it has nothing to do. It has nothing to do with you if you're trying to help. So if you're someone who is watching someone go through any of this, I think getting help and getting research is just as important as the person who's going through it.
Exactly. Yeah. You always have to, and it's maybe that people just need to say, I'm here for you.
Yeah.
If they know nothing else to do. Because it's hard to express exactly what it's like when you've got a friend who doesn't know how to do it, because how do you help them when you're trying to help yourself? But they are trying to be there. And we were talking about this before the interview, where sometimes miscommunication, where you think there's a problem, but there's actually not a problem. And when you're in a state of depression or anxiety or whatever, it's really hard to wrap your head around that they're not being bad. They just don't know.
That's right.
And that's why conversation is good when you're in a state, to have that conversation, with that whole breaking the stigma on mental health, to make sure that we don't have that miscommunication. You're not losing friends that are actually good friends, but they don't know what to do.
Yeah. And I know, I remember feeling like when I was, and I keep trying not to mention who it is, of course. But I keep trying, I remember having that, no matter what I do is wrong. You know what I mean? So if I'm too supportive, I'm wrong. If I'm not supportive, I'm wrong. You know what I mean? So I felt that, so sometimes I cut myself to the point of, well, if they need it, they're an adult, they're going to have to ask me, because I just got to a point where, sometimes you just feel like no matter what you do, you're going to be wrong, So I think that relationships are so hard when everything is healthy. Can you imagine how hard it is when there's one part that's broken, right? I don't know.
Oh, exactly. It's really hard. And that's why the more that we can be open and honest, the better it is. So I've started in the last year and a bit, when I used to work somewhere else, when I wasn't self-employed, people would say, how are you, right? Like that's common. Hey, how are you? And instead of being like, oh, I'm good, everything's fine, and it's not, I started saying, well, how much do you want to know? Right? Or something like, things aren't good today. And wait for them to either have a follow-up question because they're prepared for that answer, or if they're not prepared for that answer, sometimes they'll say, that really sucks, do you want to talk later? Because I was honest with them that things aren't good. Because I used to just say, oh yeah, everything's fine, right? That's the typical answer, yeah, I'm good. And they'd go about their day. Then later they'd walk in my office and I'd have like tears in my eyes. They'd be like, but you said you were good. So we have to also take responsibility that if somebody's asking us how we feel, be honest. I mean, you don't have to give them a whole 10-minute speech on how you feel, but if you're having a bad day, just say, I'm having a bad day.
Yeah.
If they want to follow up with another question, be prepared to answer it, or say, I'm having a bad day, don't want to talk about it. That's fine too. But just, don't give that lie.
You know, I think you're very brave to be sharing all this information with us and sharing your lives with us through your book, through your interview today. I really appreciate you being on our show and sharing some insight of how you feel and why, you know, why you put the book together, what inspired you to tell your story, you know. Can you tell us about the cover? Just a little bit about the cover.
I've been thinking about that a lot too. So whenever I show the book to people and they always say, oh, well, what does the cover mean? I always tell them they have to read it because it's
I love it. Okay, that's cool. That's true.
So it's a little teaser. It's actually explained in the book, but I'll give a little teaser. It's explained much more in the book. But the picture is something that I drew one day to show what I was feeling in my head. This is what, you know, but if you read the book, it will give you a more full answer of what it is.
I love it. I love it. So you can see, as I was publishing Randi-Lee's book, I was enthralled by everything. So I got to go the journey with her as she was going through the publishing. It was my very first poetry book that I have published. Before, when I first started doing the publishing, it really was for business. And when she sent me this manuscript, it what really truly was, like I said, it touched me and I went, oh my gosh, she's got to tell her story. She's got to get this out there. And I want to be the one to help her. So, you know, even from the, you know, when she sent me the picture for the cover, I was, you know, and told me the story behind it. It pulled me right in. It really, truly pulled me right in. So if, tell us, where can they get a copy of your book? Where can they get a copy?
So online, if you go to Amazon, if you have the ebooks, the Kindles, pre-orders are going in now, and they will be launched on Wednesday.
Yep, Wednesday the 27th. Yep.
So if you want to get your hands So if you want to get your hands on it, that is the best and easiest, fastest way to do it. If you want a hard copy, I do have them at my business. So I run Ignite Personal Training in Welland. So I've got copies there. And Truth Niagara is also going to be getting some copies there that you can pick up.
Perfect. And they can order online from your website too, right? Like after. So here's what the deal is. Okay. So if you were to, we really want to encourage you to buy the Kindle for us. We are doing a book campaign right now. So you go to amazon.ca or .com, depending on where you live. You can even get this in Australia. You're in Europe, you can get a copy of your Kindle version, okay? All you need to do is go to Amazon, put in Thoughts of a Wanderer by Randi-Lee. You just put Thoughts of a Wanderer and it will pop up. It's $2.99 US, so it's $2.99 US. But the other deal is if you want a hard copy, maybe an autographed copy from Randi-Lee, if you buy the Kindle version first and you were to submit the receipt over to Randi, she will give you $5 off the book and she will ship it out to you. Okay, so we really do encourage you to buy the Kindle and help us with our book campaign. And, you know, it goes to a good cause. You also donate a little bit to mental awareness, right? Do you do that?
Yep.
Yep. So,
I do, depending on the month, I'll do it. So, because my daughter has autism, certain months I'm all about a campaign crazy for that. We just finished the Autism Speaks Canada walk here in Niagara in April, so everything was all for that. Yeah. But I will post it on Facebook or whatever when the portion goes towards it.
So either way, you're supporting a good cause. You're either supporting autism or mental health, one or the other. So don't worry. So if you can find it in your hearts to support, that would be great. And thank you so much for staying tuned and listening into our interview. If you are someone who is suffering from mental illness and not sharing with anybody, please reach out to your doctor. Find out one person. That's our biggest. I think our biggest message today. The other is if you know someone and, you know, and they are struggling and you're struggling to help them, you know, find research, do research, read books, and really truly maybe reach out to your doctor as well to be the support person for them to know the right answers. You could be the catalyst in the difference, you know, and make that difference. So thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned for next time.